Now, before I really start the video, I want to go over Gen Z's obsession with being famous. Of course, I haven't really lived in another time period, so maybe this isn't really a new thing. Maybe these are things that come with each generation. Millennials millennials had who's going to be the next basketball player or who's going to be the next rapper or soccer player. And without being this big conspiracy theorist, I genuinely think careers like this are traps. Most people who want this spotlight, who want fans by doing something like big, like streaming or singing, whatever it really is, underestimate the amount of time and practice and truly the connections people have prior to getting this experience. Everyone from day one will tell you that it just takes time. You have to have patience, hard work. You need to have consistency. And without sounding pessimistic, I simply don't believe that's true, or at least truth in its entirety. You probably cannot become successful if you don't have basic social skills. Let's just say, for an example, if you go down the traditional college route and you think this is a safe one and, officially Just Kidding doesn't want you to be a streamer, which I'm not saying that is true. But if you just go to this traditional college route, you still don't have this big old chance of being successful anymore. Everybody has a college degree and it's just saturated. The whole entire degree is saturated. Most people now have to go get a master's or go to grad school and get so much debt. Today, most kids who want to make a living, they want to do something that 0.0001% of all people in the world do. And to make it short, that's around like 8,000 people. And, statistically, you can't measure success. It's not something that is by percentages. It's not given out evenly because multiple people have multiple talents or multiple needs. But sometimes thinking of, where I've been and who I've interacted with in my personal life, the people that I converse with today, even though I can't statistically measure it, I don't believe they truly know what success really means. And I don't want to put myself on this high horse because am I successful? Well, it depends on what you deem to be successful. And what you deem to be successful comes from what you watch and where have you been in life. Sometimes I don't even know what it really means because there's so many different ways on interpreting that one answer. You get painted this picture of a happy family in a nice suburban neighborhood. But the reality of these situations is that most people aren't happy with those things. Most people aren't happy in life and they're continuously trying to find the next thing. This is why we're having people with midlife crisis or people are having quarter life crisis right now because it's just this chase. It's just this weird thing of what's next. What is my next? I have everything. I am married. I have kids. I have this career, but there's still something missing, and it's this chase. It's crazy to think that when you're a kid, the lack of responsibilities and the delayed cognitive function of just being young is the only thing that's really going to allow you to experience life in a way that you may not be able to experience ever again. And then once you're an adult, it's like that whole feeling, the nostalgia kind of creeps in and you're just wondering, what should I do? And looking at these kids online, looking at people wanting to be streamers online, it kind of makes me feel like an old it just makes me feel like low-key, I don't know if these kids are truly happy. I think most people that are still watching this video want to be something. You know, you want to have someone who loves you or just a good life. And we fall down various pipelines to find that happiness, find that desire, find that fulfillment. You know, there's the red pill culture, black pill, blue pill, religion, spirituality, podcast, streamers, audiobooks, just this entire generation, this concept of self-improvement that honestly we don't even do. There's endless information on how to become better. So let's start with bullying AI in the downfall of intelligence. Advanced technology has taken so many jobs, and sometimes this isn't a bad thing. I know 400,000 years ago when machines were just being made, I know the machines are pretty new, but a couple hundred years ago, a couple generations, when new machines were being made, people were like, oh my goodness, they're going to take jobs. And, I can't go to pick strawberries off of the freaking beach anymore because there's going to be this big machine. And I'm pretty sure when swords were being made, people are going to be like, this is an unfair advantage. You just use your hands, go back to classic fighting. And when guns were being made, people's minds were blown. So every time there's a new advancement in technology, especially something that can, I guess, win a war. I don't know why I was thinking about guns and swords. That's where my mind is right now. But people always complain that, civilization, it's going to be the end of civilization. It's almost like this human, biological, I don't even know what you would call it, where people just think that more advancement or more freedom or pleasure is going to be the death of humanity in entirety. And I don't think that that's what AI is doing, at least not yet. Maybe in 100 years when robots are being made and they're starting to kick and hit you, maybe you could be like, oh, maybe we've gone far in that AI. But the fact that it can be really good for us now, I still think that technology in itself needs to be bullied a little. There's this loneliness epidemic going on where people aren't really hanging out with friends or other people. And the lack of connection, friendships, I started to believe was because of the overactive use of technology. It's hard to connect to people in life when you fry your brain. You're frying your brain by being on social media constantly and comparing yourself to somebody in real time. Social media and spending so much time actively listening to other people's or other influencers' own personal experience made me kind of look in the mirror and be like, I might be developing some type of anxiety disorder because of this. And I don't think I'm the only one. And maybe that's why so many people want to be famous, because you feel like FOMO, you feel like you're missing out on something. You're looking around your life that you're comparing yourself to this YouTuber, to this influencer, and they have everything, or they're showing you that they have everything. And you're like, this is the answer. They have everything because they're a streamer. And it's like, no, bro, that's, chill. And I think this is the main problem or the reason for this video. Kids are watching these people, these influencers, and their basic skills are starting to fail. Kids can barely read now, and most adults' reading comprehension skills were at the max of an 8th grader. And there's studies showing that kids are not going to be able to read max of a 5th grader because they're just going to have technology do it. I have this little cousin, and every time he's trying to spell something, he just uses the autocorrect, or he just uses the voice chat. He has no conceptualization on how to actually spell. And my whole point is who is not teaching these kids? Let's blame the parent. Blame the parent first, but also what is going on in school where this freaking 10-year-old barely knows how to spell, barely knows how to read. And maybe I'm overreacting. Again, maybe in 10 to 20 years, reading won't be such a big thing, and the overuse of technology could have a positive effect. Or maybe it'll be worse. The downfall of intelligence stems from measuring it. There's going to be this big brainer out here who's like, oh, well, let's test kids on, their IQ. And honestly, I'm not really sure how IQ works or if it's even accurate. Like, what if someone has like a 120 IQ, 130, but they never read? They never problem solve. They exist in fear. But like, what does it mean versus someone who has like an 80 IQ, but like reads a chapter a day? Which is light reading if you really think about it. But does that make them stupider? I guess if I put it in sports reference, it's like if somebody is 7 foot and they play basketball, but they barely train versus someone who's 6 foot and they train every single day, is the 7-footer going to have, more of an advantage over the 6-footer? And you could debate, if that 6-footer has been playing since they were a toddler, and they're like in their mid-20s right now, and there's this 7-foot person who's like, you know what, I'm just going to pick up a ball because I'm that tall. There's no chance, right? There has to be no chance. So if that's the case, does IQ test really matter? Because even if let's just say me personally, I had like a 90 IQ, if I'm doing the work every day to become smarter in reading and I have discipline, it doesn't matter if somebody else has a 130 IQ if they're not taking care of their brain. And, maybe this is why I'm into self-improvement, because I felt kind of, inactive with studies when I was younger, if that makes sense. It's a sign of intelligence to problem solve, to want to get what you want out of life. And these kids that are online, they're just following what they see. It makes me wonder if there's anything there, or if they only think it's one solution to life. It's just to become famous, just to get diamonds, just to, they're falling into this trap. I don't see how it's nothing else besides a trap. It's something so glorified that most people who are at that level don't even want to admit that it's not even fun. The only fun part is that other people want to be you. And it's kind of like, damn, like that's life right there. That's crazy. Our entire economy and a way of thinking revolves around consuming garbage. I'm talking about fast foods or shopping sprees right after, you get that text, or just spending hours in the club dancing and drinking and whatever. But I'm also talking about the BS that you consume online. These kids, including myself, because I did just scroll on TikTok for about 3 hours today. But these kids don't even remember the videos that they watch. You'll sit around on YouTube Shorts, YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, just scrolling, and you only remember one video that made you die of laughter that day, and everything is just mush. And in my video on why school sucks, one of the topics I went over was how the educational system is effed up because of the cost. Because, you can only blame technology so much, but go back to school. But you're trying to go back to school, but it's $1,000 per month to just even learn. I think the more complicated process of the education system stems from people's inability to teach themselves, to learn outside of school. Like, imagine if I was religious, but the only thing I did was go to church every Sunday. And I'm not religious like that, but just imagine it. You would call me like a fake religious person. It's those people who are reading the Bible every day. But you get what I'm trying to say to you? It's like, you think that, I have to go to school to become smarter, but no, you have to be smarter so then you could convince yourself to go to school. You want to actually teach yourself, but you're not taught how to teach yourself. You're taught to listen to the teacher. And if you don't have one, you go find one. And those teachers are streamers now. Those teachers are influencers. They're actors. They're actresses. They're, scene players. People are getting into, explicit content because of what they are consuming and the advice that they're being given that is unsolicited. No one's monitoring their time online. Like, there's so many people who I come across on a day-to-day basis who don't remember the last time they picked up a book. And it gets concerning after a while. I don't expect you to remember word for word what you read, but you can't even give me like a 3-sentence summary on a 300-page book that you read. No, because they haven't read a book since high school. And that's scary, because what and where are you getting your information from? And please don't tell me it's all from online sources. You have to use like that critical thinking that I'm talking about. Like, use inferences from past events that you've seen, from books that you've read, but you can't, because you're just going with the opinions of other people. And your intelligence, like, there's nothing there. And it's scary to even say this, because I don't even think there's anything. I read a lot, but I feel like I'm not even reading as much as I should or could be doing. I feel like I'm still on this lower IQ scale, because there's so much time where I could be spending reading more. And I don't want to put that pressure on me or anybody watching this video. I just want to make a comparison. The downfall of intelligence comes with overactive consumerism. Whether it's too many clothes that you don't need, or too much food to eat, or too much time spent on social media. Overindulging in streaming content and influencers, or Love Island, is the reason why this social economy sucks. Not many people can hold a conversation or look you in the eyes. Not many people are worth being friends with, especially on that lower social scale, because they just want to bring you down to the same cycle that they are in. Go to work, go on, a streaming platform, and turn your brain off. And you blame it on, oh, I'm stressed. No, like, you don't do anything. And I don't want to sound like I'm blaming everyone, or I don't ever really want to be the type of person who looks down on people because they're not on self-improvement. But I can't really be around people so often who don't want to improve themselves. I have to really, really, really care for you if it comes to that. So a couple of days ago, my coworker and I, we were chatting. There was nothing really to do, and we were talking about our romantic partnerships, right? And how we want life to really go with them, or in general. So as I'm explaining to him about how I like this person and how, I want them to be with me and some hopeless romantic stuff, he looks at me, deadpans into my soul, looks me in the eye and says, "Do you like to manipulate people?" At this point, I thought I was going to have to sign a contract after. Like, there was going to be some floating paper and quill that brought me to hell. And I was like, no, I don't like to I don't like to lie to people. I can lie when I need to, or, if it's going to protect my ego, if it's really bad. But no, I don't like to just lie, especially when it comes to a romantic partnership. Like, I want that marriage, or I want that, like, actual love stuff. And then he proceeds to tell me that I should sleep with more people and not focus myself on one person. Mind you, his life is in shambles. Mind you, he cries himself to sleep. Mind you, he's overweight. And, I shouldn't knock on him like that, but I have to play it off like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I didn't think of that. I can't believe I should have manipulated more people. You're so right. Thank you for your advice, because I don't want to sound like I know better. Maybe he's just in a period of his life where he needs to do that, but I'm not. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think it's an important aspect of what consuming BS does. People, including you and I, we don't realize that our reality can get warped when we are surrounding ourselves with things that don't serve us for the long term. In this case, bro is over-consuming people, over-consuming bodies, and I think it's turning him crazy, turning him into a manipulative person. In fact, speaking on this experience alone, Most of the people who I know sleep with, more than 2 people a month are just toxic or just manipulative in general. Even the sad, lonely girls who claim that most men hurt them, even Papi Chulo, they just are disgust. Like, they're just not good people because they use you. They only can see short-term pleasure, and if they don't get that out of you, they'll manipulate everyone around them to prove that you are a bad person. And I know that sounds like way too far-fetched, but if you observe people for a while, most people who indulge in only short-term pleasures, you'll start to see that their friendships, what I would like to call short-term indulges. And if they can't get something out of you, nah, you don't want to be around that person too much. The conclusion of this video, I don't know how long it's going to be, but basically this whole streamer economy, over-consuming content, overuse of technology is what's really starting to have a negative effect on me and probably some other people. I don't think that these are the things that are forcing people to be dumb. If it wasn't going to be AI, it would be a new drug. If it wasn't going to be streaming content, it would be being a famous actress. There's so many profitable experiences that people want to have. People want attention and fame and clout, and watching people have that can make people live vicariously through these streamers, vicariously through these influencers. People who watch true crime are the most anxious people. People who sleep with multiple people for a short term only see what they can get out of from you. People who watch TikTok till their brain fries develop adult autism. And my main point is be careful who you watch and what you consume. In order to get that hit of dopamine or an organism, that's a code word for obviously something else, you have to become a type of person. Learn to value what's important to you and chase what's important. Chase knowledge, chase true love, or chase fulfillment. I don't know. It's not becoming the next big streamer. That's someone else's dream. Go live yours.